We have some more NHL signings to discuss today, including a pair of players by the Toronto Maple Leafs and an important RFA to the Winnipeg Jets. And we also have some news on an OHL return which could alter the rules, and an NHL player that was drafted in the 2020 NHL Draft has been renounced. We'll discuss that. Unprecedented news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have some different kind of news to talk about today, as well as some NHL signings. Let's kick things off with the news out of Arizona and the big controversy surrounding 2020 draft pick Mitchell Miller. Now, of course, many NHL teams knew the history on this player heading into the draft, including Arizona. Now, a lot of us people who may not be, big time scouting people, or may not know a lot of the later round picks or whatever, might not have known this player. He's a player who kind of flew under the radar. It just kind of depends on how deep and how closely you follow prospects, which might determine what you knew about this guy. But a lot of people didn't know a whole lot. But scouts and NHL teams sure did, and many had him on their do not draft list, and there's even a bunch of scouting services, depending on where you like to get your prospect info, that had him on that list too and did not include him in any of their draft rankings. So clearly he's a player that a lot of teams and scouting services wanted to stay clear of because of the past. Now, he was accused and convicted of a hate crime back when he was younger. I believe he was in grade 8, like he was young, but still it's a situation where it looks like he never really apologized to his victim, and many NHL teams and players in the hockey world just weren't completely convinced that he really learned from his mistakes and really grew up and really changed from it. So it's a situation where the Coyotes basically came out originally and defended the choice to draft him. We're getting a lot of public outcry here. We're getting a lot of pushback from a lot of different people in the hockey community about the selection. Now, the other thing, too, is even before that happened, he started playing hockey at the University of North Dakota on a scholarship, which they came under fire, obviously, for not only allowing him to play hockey there, but for granting him a scholarship to do it as well. And obviously, a lot of things have changed, and I think a lot of this comes from the public outcry and the pushback. So as much as I commend the University of North Dakota and the Arizona Coyotes for what I'll call doing the right thing, at the same time, you can't give them too much credit because they were kind of forced to do it by public opinion here. But essentially, the Coyotes have renounced the draft selection, so he is no longer affiliated with the Arizona Coyotes, which is, I'm pretty sure that's the first time that's ever happened in NHL history. At least I can't recall it ever taking place before. I mean, there's been times where players are drafted but not signed, or things were happen down the road, but I've never actually seen a player's draft selection be renounced. Like, it's almost like they want to pretend it never happened, essentially. It's just not there. And then, on top of that, the pressure was felt at University of North Dakota, and they talked things over, talked to him, his family, and he is no longer on the University of North Dakota men's hockey team. Now, I know he was supposed to be at the United States junior selection camp. I'm not sure what the status is, and I haven't heard anything in that regard, but I would assume if he lost a spot in college hockey and he's no longer an affiliated NHL prospect, that perhaps he won't get to play there. I really don't know, but ultimately his hockey career, he's kind of lost everything and fast because of this past history that he's still paying the price for. Now, ultimately, I guess it's difficult to say what the future holds for this young man. I mean, I hope that he's learned from his mistakes. I hope that he does, certainly do his best to change things. I mean, it would be a big, big step to apologize to the victim and actually, show some genuine remorse. Obviously, like, things that have happened and we've learned through these articles on this crime that he committed was, pretty low, and something that, I would not want anybody to go through, regardless of what their background is or what their ethnicity is or anything. Like, it's just, kids can be cruel sometimes, but when they use other things against you on top of that, like your race or your anything else, sexual orientation or anything else for that matter, against you as that kind of a crime as well, like, it's just that much worse. So anyways, it's certainly a unique story, not something we see in the past. I'm not sure if I hope we don't see anything like that again, because obviously you don't want people like that getting the right opportunity. So we'll see if this player ever gets another chance or not. Certainly let me know what your thoughts are on the Coyotes and the University of North Dakota with their choices today. Did they do the right thing here? I believe they did, because obviously it's a big thing that he did, and if it doesn't really look like he's learned from it, which is what their concerns are, then clearly, they need to take a step back here and probably disassociate with him. So we'll see what happens there. Now, the other news that I found on today as well is that there's a talk that the Ontario Hockey League, the junior league, part of the CHL, will be returning to play without any kind of body checking, which I found weird. Now, this came from Lisa McLeod, I believe her name is, who is like the sports and tourism minister in Ontario, which is something that they were talking about, which is not even something that the OHL has come out with, which I find incredibly odd. I mean, if you take a look at the sport of hockey, I mean, even if you do take out body checking, like look at female hockey, for example, at the highest level, is not supposed to have body checking, but there's some pretty good contact going on there. And if you take a look at just like the battles, when you're battling for the puck, you're sitting close to each other on the bench, you're in the face-offs. Like, I don't understand how a quick body check is any different than any of those other things. And from a COVID perspective and a safety perspective, how it would have any other outcome and put anybody at a higher risk of passing on or contracting this COVID-19 virus. I don't get it. Now, to me, very surprised that they're the only ones that have made this kind of talk so far, like the province of Ontario. So, do they have science or research that other provinces or that don't have, or in the U.S.? Like, I don't see the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League right now is playing. Not all teams are playing because there are certain places that are kind of on pause or on hold right now while they get through their outbreaks, but like where I live in the Atlantic region of Canada, which have teams that are part of the QMJHL, they're playing, like the St. John Sea Dogs, the Wildcats of Moncton, Acadie Bathurst, like Charlottetown, the Halifax Mooseheads. They're all able to play right now because where we are, the COVID caseload is pretty low. It's almost non-existent. So, for them, they're able to continue playing, and they're playing normally. But in Ontario, like, to me, that just doesn't make sense at all. Like, to me, you're gonna change the game too much, and it's just not worth it. And I don't understand why the government are making these types of announcements when this should be coming directly from the OHL. And not only that, the OHL's already made an announcement that they're not going to be returning to play until much later. Like, we're looking at after the new year into probably February. So, like, that's a lot of time between now and then. How can you announce now? You can't really predict. For the most part, they haven't been able to, because all the predictions haven't really been all that accurate. Where the COVID cases are going to be, where the pandemic is going to be at, 3, 4, 5 months down the road. So it's really confusing to me. To me, if the Ontario Hockey League is going to be forced to play with no checking at all, to me, they might as well just cancel the season. But that's my take. But we will see, and hopefully they can work around that, because I feel bad for the players and the prospects that are going to, if they do play, are going to have to make so many adjustments. It's just not going to be right, and I just don't see them getting the proper development when it's part of the game at every other level going up from there. So anyways, some interesting signings today as well. Some more normal news to talk about. The Toronto Maple Leafs have made a pair of signings. One very interesting, Michael Hutchinson, the goaltender who took a lot of heat last year from the fan base, and I know many fans seem to celebrate when he left town, is back. He's back on a 2-year contract as a free agent with the Leafs at a league minimum, of course. More than likely, he's not going to play in the NHL, though. He'll probably go to the American Hockey League, I would assume. But to me, it's kind of an odd signing in a way, because you got Freddie Anderson, you got Jack Campbell, you have Aaron Dell, but I guess where they sign him on a 2-year deal, I guess this is also part of the strategy for the expansion draft, because they have Aaron Dell on a 1-year deal. They got Freddie Anderson on an expiring contract too, final year of his contract. So they need to have so many players at each position under contract for the expansion draft next year. And if Anderson and Dell, which may or may not return, then that gives them Campbell and Hutchinson here that can be available. They can protect one and make the other one available. So he kind of becomes a pawn almost for the expansion draft. But my concern, though, at the same time would be that's all fine and dandy. They're being smart that way. But you still have other key prospects like Ian Scott and Joseph Wall. Where are they going to play? They're key prospects for the Leafs' future. They're really good goaltending prospects. High-end potential here. So I'm just not sure. Are they going to be demoted all the way down to the East Coast League? I mean, we already seen a situation where they haven't had probably as much playing time in the last year or two as you would have thought. So anyways, my concern is more so for them and how the whole depth and the pecking order kind of lines up here. But I understand why they're bringing back Hutch. He's really just used as probably a backup in the AHL or something like that in order to facilitate, making sure that they have everything in order for the expansion draft. But we'll see. Now, they also signed Joey Anderson, an RFA who came over via trade from New Jersey in the Andreas Janssen trade earlier this offseason. Now, they signed him to a 3-year deal with a $725,000 average annual value, which is a really good contract. It's a 2-way deal for the first 2 years, and it's a 1-way deal in year 3. Pardon me, that's actually $750, not $725. Correct that. So it's at $750, and by year 3, he's got a 1-way deal, which is good for him. It gives him a couple of years to continue working and developing in the system. He's obviously got a lot of veterans to kind of fight with here for a spot in this coming year. I think over the first 2 years of this contract, he will get some games. Just not convinced based on their depth charts that he'll get a regular spot, but at least he's a player that they can look to for the future, and certainly somebody who they can use here, especially in year 2 and 3, to kind of balance out the salary cap to have a cheap contract for a bottom 6 player. So overall, that's a pretty safe signing, and I like that deal very much for the Leafs. We also saw the Jets come to terms with RFA defenseman Sami Niku. Now, he's a player who certainly has some question marks on his future. You still can't completely rule that out, but he's a player along with another defenseman like a Tucker Pullman, for example, who've been in the system now for a while looking for full-time opportunities, and we'll have to see if they can earn that with the Jets for the coming year. Niku does sign a 2-year contract, though, which certainly keeps him around for some time, or at least makes him more valuable in a trade where he is under contract at near league minimum here for an extra season. So we'll see what happens with Niku. He's a player that the Jets really need to take some steps forward if they're going to keep him around here, because that blue line needs help, and he could be a big part of the solution if his development can really break through for them this year. The Carolina Hurricanes also signed forward Max McCormick to a 1-year, 2-way contract as well, league minimum at the NHL level. He gets a bit of a bump at the American Hockey League level, a little bit higher than normal, but still he's a player who will mostly play in the minors, give you some bottom 6 minutes if you need a call-up. He has a decent amount of NHL games over a stint with the Ottawa Senators, where he was originally drafted from, and where he got to get his first break and played a lot with their AHL team. Limited NHL time. Not afraid to drop the gloves. He's not a big guy, but he'll play physical, get in your face, and except fight if necessary. So McCormick sticks around. A good vet at the AHL level to have around, and a guy you can use as a call-up, as a fill-in if needed. We also had a couple other players sign 1-year, 2-way contracts, including the Vancouver Canucks signing Guillaume Brisebois, and the New Jersey Devils signing defenseman Colton White. Both, like I said, get league minimum contracts, 2-way deals for 1 year. They're most likely going to both play at the American Hockey League level, which is where they've spent the bulk of their time developing here thus far in their young professional careers. So that is all your news here for tonight. So let me know your thoughts on everything down below in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.